Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so if you're anything like most people, you probably believe that you're a perfectly rational human being. You weigh the pros and cons, you look at all the facts, and you make nice, logical decisions. But today, we're actually going to completely shatter that illusion. Based on the truly groundbreaking work of Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman and his book Thinking Fast and Slow, we're going to explore how we are, in reality, deeply influenced by the irrational. Basically, our minds are a battleground of conflicting systems, and understanding this is the absolute key to finally seeing how you actually think. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is the literal roadmap for your wonderfully irrational brain today. Number 1, we'll meet the two systems. Number 2, we'll look at mental shortcuts and biases. Number 3 is the danger of overconfidence. Number 4 covers choices, risks, and losses. And finally, number 5, the remembering self. Let's get started.
Section 1. Meet the two systems, essentially the odd couple of the mind. So, to really understand human behavior, we have to meet the main characters inside our own heads. Try to solve this for a second. 17 times 24. Do you feel that? That sudden mental friction? The physical tension? Maybe the slight widening of your pupils? That is your analytical system 2, literally waking up, stretching, and reluctantly getting to work.
Right, so here's exactly what just happened. System 1 is incredibly fast. It's automatic, it's highly intuitive, it's emotional, and it requires absolutely zero effort on your part. It's what lets you read words on a billboard instantly or duck out of the way when you hear a loud noise. But System 2? Well, System 2 is slow. It's analytical, it's logical, and it actually consumes a massive amount of physical energy, literally burning through your glucose. And because System 2 requires so much heavy lifting, it is incredibly lazy. Actually, it mostly just accepts the quick suggestions and impulses of System 1 without even questioning them. It really only steps in when System 1 is totally stumped, like with that math problem a second ago, or when it detects an imminent error. Moving on to Section 2. Mental shortcuts and biases, or what happens when System 2 is sleeping. Because System 2 is just so hopelessly lazy, our brain relies a lot on mental shortcuts. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most powerful traps we fall into, WSIAT. What you see is all there is. You see, our System 1 absolutely loves a good story. It'll take whatever tiny random fragments of information are immediately available to you right now and instantly weave them into a completely coherent narrative, and it completely ignores all the facts it doesn't know. It's basically the ultimate engine for jumping to hasty, highly confident conclusions. And that leads us to a whole series of everyday mental shortcuts or heuristics. For instance, there's the halo effect. If you think someone is super attractive, you automatically assume they're also smart and honest, basically judging their whole character on one single trait. Then there's the availability heuristic. We think plane crashes are highly probable just because the news shows them constantly, making those examples super easily available in our memory. Then you have anchoring. If someone throws out a really high random number during a price negotiation, your brain literally anchors to it, totally warping your estimate of actual value. And finally, representativeness. This is where we rely heavily on simple stereotypes and just completely ignore real-world statistics. Section 3. Overconfidence. The very real danger of certainty. So all those quick shortcuts we just talked about, they culminate in a really dangerous place, overconfidence. This brings us straight into the illusion of validity. This is that crazy phenomenon where experts, we're talking seasoned stockbrokers or political pundits, implicitly trust their own complex human intuition and forecasts. They feel absolutely certain about their predictions. Yet, time and time again, the data clearly shows that simple algorithms and pure statistics are vastly more accurate than human judgment. We just naturally trust our own gut feeling of understanding way more than the cold, hard data. You can actually see this overconfidence in your own daily life through the planning fallacy. I mean, think about the last project you took on or even just a weekend chore. We almost always focus entirely on the most optimistic, best-case scenario. We actively ignore realistic risks, and as a direct result, we drastically underestimate the time and money it'll actually take. Honestly, this is exactly why home renovations always go way over budget and why deadlines are almost never met. All right, Section 4, Choices, Risks, and Losses. Time to say goodbye to the perfect econs. Let's shift gears a bit to see how these biases impact our real-world financial choices. Traditional economics always assumed we were these perfectly rational beings. They called them econs. But look at this concept of the reference point. Now, what's really interesting about this is that we don't evaluate things in absolute terms at all. Our context completely alters our perception of value. For instance, having $1 million sounds fantastic, right? Well, yeah, it is a tremendous joy if your starting point was zero. But if your starting reference point was $5 million, suddenly having $1 million feels like an absolute catastrophe. The math is literally the exact same, but the human experience is wildly different. And that brings us to one of the absolute most powerful forces in all of human psychology: loss aversion. That 2 times multiplier represents a fundamental truth about us. The psychological pain of losing something is approximately twice as intense as the joy of gaining that exact same thing. Losing a $100 bill hurts your mind way, way more than finding a $100 bill makes you happy. We are quite literally biologically wired to avoid losses at almost all costs. Because of this incredibly deep-seated emotional wiring, we totally fall victim to the framing effect. Just imagine 2 medical options for a second. Option A boasts a 90% chance of survival. Option B warns of a 10% chance of mortality. Statistically speaking, these are identical scenarios. But if you present option A, most people will eagerly accept the surgery. Present option B, and people will reject it out of sheer fear. Identical statistics trigger completely different decisions based solely on the emotional framing of the words. It's wild.
Section 5. The Remembering Self. The Ultimate Internal Battle.
So how do we actually process joy and pain over the course of our entire lives? Well, Kahneman reveals a pretty massive twist here. We essentially have 2 selves. The experiencing self is the one living right now, in the present moment, feeling current joy or pain. But the remembering self is the archivist. It keeps the score, and most importantly, it dictates all our future decisions. So the crucial point here is that the remembering self completely dominates our life choices. We don't actually choose between experiences, we choose between the memories of our experiences. And the real problem? The remembering self makes massive, massive errors. The first major error is called duration neglect. Incredibly, the actual length of time that a good or bad event occurs barely matters at all to the final memory we retain. Think about it. A vacation that's absolutely wonderful for 2 whole weeks isn't necessarily remembered as twice as good as a vacation that was wonderful for just 1 week. The actual time spent experiencing something is largely just thrown right out the window by the remembering self. Let's move along and see how this builds directly into something called the peak end rule. Our remembering self judges an entire experience based on just 2 isolated moments: the peak of intensity and how the whole thing ended. Imagine you're watching a highly engaging 2-hour movie. The start is good, the climax is absolutely amazing, but those final 5 minutes are completely terrible. Well, because of the peak end rule, that terrible ending will completely ruin your entire memory of the film. Those 2 full hours of joy are completely overridden by just 5 minutes of disappointment right at the finish line. So where does this leave all of us? We've clearly seen that we are heavily, heavily influenced by the irrational. But the goal of this explainer, and really Kahneman's work as a whole, is not to somehow turn off System 1. Honestly, that would be physically impossible and totally exhausting. You absolutely need System 1 just to navigate your daily life. Instead, the goal here is empowerment. It's about learning to recognize these specific traps, the biases, the overconfidence, the framing effects, so that you can intentionally hit the brakes, wake up your lazy System 2, and make highly rational decisions when the stakes are truly high. So, knowing all this about how your mind actually works, I want to leave you with a question to chew on today. What high-stakes decision in your own life is your System 1 rushing you into right now, just based on a quick mental shortcut? Take a breath, wake up System 2, and look at the facts again. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep questioning how you think.